He was just a skinny kid, stepping into a boxing ring he had no business being in. Or so they thought. The crowd smirked, the opponents sneered, and every eye saw only weakness. They didn't know his past, his pain, or the man quietly watching from the corner. Within minutes, the mockery would turn into silence. And when the truth about his trainer finally came out, the ring, and everyone in it, would never forget what they witnessed. His name was Jordan, just 15, thin as a rail, and living in a neighborhood where dreams rarely made it past the corner store. But Jordan had one dream that burned brighter than all the doubts around him: boxing. His old gloves were frayed, the laces tied with tape, and his shoes barely clung together, but none of that mattered. What mattered was the fire inside him every time he stepped near the ring. At school, he was the kid others pushed aside. Too small, too quiet, too different. They laughed when he said he wanted to fight. "You'll get crushed," they told him. But Jordan didn't flinch. Deep down, he carried a reason for fighting, something heavier than the weight of his thin frame. Every evening, he showed up at the gym after finishing chores, sweeping floors just to earn a chance to train. The others ignored him, sometimes mocking his size, sometimes his skin. He kept his head down, never answering back. What they didn't see was how hard he studied the sport, every stance, every jab, every slip. Then came the night that changed everything. A sparring match was set up, and Jordan was paired against a local favorite, a tall, muscular boy who loved to show off in front of the crowd. Laughter filled the gym as Jordan climbed into the ring. To them, it was a joke. To Jordan, it was the moment he had been waiting for his entire life. What none of them realized was that he wasn't fighting alone. In his corner stood a man who carried a past powerful enough to silence every doubter in the room. The bell rang, and before Jordan could even raise his gloves, the larger boy swung a heavy jab that sent him stumbling back. Laughter erupted from the sidelines, sharp, cruel, echoing across the gym walls. Some shook their heads, muttering that this was a waste of time. Others jeered, calling him too skinny, too weak, and worse. The humiliation stung more than the punches, but Jordan refused to quit. He steadied his breath, tried to remember the drills he practiced alone in the dim corners of the gym. He circled, moved light on his feet, but every time he got close, the bigger boy shoved him back with brute strength. The crowd loved it. Every push, every stumble was fuel for their entertainment. Behind it all, in the corner of the ring, his trainer stood silent. The man's eyes followed every move, his arms folded, his expression unreadable. He didn't shout instructions or clap encouragement. He simply watched, and that silence was what unsettled Jordan's opponent the most. The bigger boy grew cocky. He dropped his guard, mocking Jordan with exaggerated moves, pretending to wobble as if he were about to faint. The spectators roared with laughter. To them, this wasn't a fight. It was a show, one that confirmed their belief that this skinny black kid didn't belong in the ring. Jordan's body ached, but something deeper inside him ached even more. This wasn't just about boxing. Every insult, every doubt, every time he was told he wasn't enough, it was all playing out here under the hot gym lights. His fists tightened. He remembered why he started, why he showed up every night despite the whispers. He wasn't just fighting for himself. He was fighting for respect. Minutes dragged like hours. The crowd leaned forward, waiting for the knockout they thought was inevitable. But with every punch Jordan absorbed, with every stumble he recovered from, something began to shift. His footwork grew sharper, his eyes more focused, his movements less frantic, more precise. The laughter didn't sting anymore, it fueled him. Still, the mockery didn't stop. One man near the ropes shouted, "End it already, he's no fighter." Another chimed in, "This isn't boxing, it's charity work." And then, the bigger boy leaned close enough for Jordan to hear his words. "You don't belong here." But Jordan did not answer with words. He answered with his fists, quicker now, sharper, forcing the other boy to blink in surprise. The crowd quieted, just for a moment as they realized he wasn't falling apart. He was learning, adapting, growing stronger right before their eyes. And through it all, the trainer remained still, watching, waiting, holding back a truth that, once revealed, would change everything about this fight, and about how everyone in that gym saw Jordan. The gym was buzzing now, no longer with laughter, but with tension. The bigger boy's smirk began to fade as Jordan landed a clean jab to his chin, quick, sharp, and unexpected. A murmur spread through the crowd. The kid wasn't supposed to last this long, let alone land punches. Frustrated, the larger boy charged recklessly, swinging wide. Jordan ducked, slipped to the side, and answered with a body shot that made the crowd gasp. He wasn't dominating, but he was proving something more dangerous to his opponent. He refused to break. The bigger boy growled, shoving Jordan against the ropes. Spit flew as he whispered, "You'll never be more than a punching bag." And just as he pulled back for another blow, a voice cut through the air. Calm, steady, but powerful. "Keep your guard up, Jordan." It was the first time the trainer had spoken all night. Heads turned toward him, curiosity rippling through the crowd. Some of the older men squinted, recognition dawning. His stance, his voice, his presence, it was familiar. The bigger boy froze for a fraction of a second, glancing at the corner. And in that moment, whispers began to rise. "Is that? No, it can't be." But it was. The quiet man who had been watching in silence, the one everyone dismissed as just another nobody in a hoodie, stepped forward. He slipped the hood back, revealing the unmistakable face of a former world champion, a fighter who had once stood on the Olympic podium, a man whose legacy had inspired thousands, but whose career had been cut short by the same kind of prejudice now being mocked in this very ring. Gasps filled the gym. Even Jordan's opponent blinked in shock, suddenly unsure of himself. The laughter stopped. The mocking stopped. Every eye now burned with the weight of truth. This skinny kid wasn't alone. He was trained, molded, and protected by a legend, someone who had endured the same hatred and risen above it. And in that instant, the fight was no longer just about Jordan. It became about every boy who had ever been told he wasn't enough. The final bell rang, and though Jordan hadn't won by knockout, he had won something far greater: respect. The crowd that once laughed now stood silent, watching the boy climb out of the ring with his trainer at his side. No one jeered. No one dared mock. The arrogance that had filled the gym was gone, replaced by the weight of realization. For the bigger boy, humiliation cut deeper than any punch. He had mocked Jordan's frame, his skin, his presence in the ring. But in the end, it was he who had been exposed. Strength wasn't measured in muscle alone. It was measured in heart, in resilience, and in the legacy passed down by those who refused to be broken. Jordan walked out of the gym that night a different person. His bruises ached, but they were nothing compared to the fire now blazing inside him. He knew who stood in his corner, and he knew what that meant. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. He was carrying forward a story of survival, of dignity, of defiance against those who tried to strip it away. The trainer placed a hand on his shoulder, steady and firm. "This is only the beginning," his eyes seemed to say, and Jordan believed it. Outside, the night air felt lighter, freer. The world hadn't changed, not yet. Racism, doubt, and cruelty still lingered beyond those gym walls. But something had shifted. Everyone who witnessed that match had seen a truth that could never be erased. Because sometimes the fight isn't about titles or trophies. Sometimes it's about showing the world that no matter how many times they try to break you, you rise, you fight, and you refuse to disappear. And the question lingers. How many more Jordans will it take before the world finally stops underestimating them?